you say that there are 7 secrets that are going to make you happier. What are they?
Well, secret number one, and I call them secrets because in all the happiness books, people aren't talking about this. I mean, there's a lot of happiness books, yet America is the unhappiest it's been since the Great Depression. And so
Let's just start to talk about that. I actually relate to that. I don't know how many times, I don't know if it's coming out of the pandemic, working hybrid. I turned to my husband the other day, Dr. Amen, and said, when did we stop having fun? Why is life so serious? Everything feels like it's heavy. Is this a common feeling right now, especially in the United States?
Oh, it's so awful. I mean, the incidence of depression tripled between February of 2020 and August of 2020. It is now doubled in children. Suicide is at a level we have never seen. And, you know, there are lots of factors for that. The news is one of them. If you watch the news in the morning, you're 27% less happy in the afternoon. So it's people are drinking from a fire hose of trauma, and we need to turn off the fire hose. I mean, 5-10 minutes a day max. And otherwise, there are forces that are dividing us. I've never seen this before. Free speech is being suppressed. There's so many things that are making people unhappy, but you can still be happier.
Okay, well, this is what I love about your book, that despite the reality and what research and what modern life feels like, there are simple things that you can do to be happier. So what is the surprising thing that's number one in terms of the 7 secrets?
So you need to know your brain type, that happiness is not the same for everyone, that what makes some people happy, a warm bath, lavender, making love, connection, just bores another person to tears. What makes one type, our spontaneous type, happy, jumping out of an airplane, helicopter skiing, will make type 5, our cautious type, completely miserable. And so the first secret that nobody talks about is, well, what's your brain type? And in the book, I talk about 5 primary types: balanced, spontaneous, sort of my ADD group, persistent, my little OCD group, sensitive, the sad group, and cautious, the anxious group. So you need to sort of know what your brain is doing, and in that way, pick strategies to make you happy based on you, rather than based on, oh, these people, you know, my priest growing up said these will be the things that make you happy.
Okay, so first of all, mind blown, because you're right, myself included. I share research, I share strategies that I use that make me happy, but they don't necessarily make Chris happy. And so if I'm hearing and tracking correctly, you're saying that just like there is a love language that people need to actually have spoken to them or that they speak in, your brain is wired a certain way to be happy depending upon one of 5 primary brain types. I have a follow-up question, of course, because the second that you said, and I love how nurturing you are to all of us when you categorized the spontaneous brain as my ADHD folks. So I'm like, hi, Dr. Amen. But then you said cautious. And I'm like, okay, well, that's me too, because of the anxiety. What if you feel like you're a mix after you read You Happier and figure out your primary brain type?
Well, there's actually 16 types, because having combinations of types is, you know, like Tana, my wife, is spontaneous and cautious. And, you know, she needs novelty and new things, but we're not jumping out of an airplane together.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And then you can, so when you know yourself, you can choose the path to happiness that really fits you. Now, it's only one of the 7 secrets. The second one is you got to get your brain healthy, because if your brain's not healthy, you won't be happy. If you live like in a mold-filled home, or you have long COVID, or you have a terrible diet, or you're not exercising, or any of the risks to hurt your brain, that you're not going to be happy. I did a study for this book on 500 consecutive new patients staying in clinics. We gave them the Oxford Happiness Questionnaire, and then we scanned them. And people who had sleepy frontal lobes, the front part of their brain was less active than was really healthy for them, much more likely to be unhappy. And so getting your brain healthy is critical. And you don't see that in any of the happiness books.
It's true. It's true. So for somebody that's listening to this right now and watching us talk about this and going, okay, that's great, but I am not near a Amen clinic to get my brain scanned. Are there 2 or 3 things that you would recommend are baseline starter habits that are critical for brain health, regardless of what your brain looks like right now?
Well, it's really 3 things. It's brain envy. You got to care about it. Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. Avoid things that hurt it. You just need to know the list, like not sleeping or eating bad food or believing every stupid thing you think. We'll talk about that. So brain envy, avoid things that hurt it, do things that help it, like simple things, multiple vitamins, fish oil, or algae oil if you're vegan, every day. Optimize your vitamin D level. Get your hormones tested, because when your hormones aren't right, your brain's not right. And basically, it's just one question. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? And quite frankly, most second graders they get a 90 on this is good for you or bad for you.
If you're stopping to think about it, it's probably bad for you, right? All right. So you got to know your brain type. That's number 1. You got to prioritize keeping your brain healthy and making choices that, from a common sense standpoint, also are kind to your brain. What is the secret number 3 to you happier?
Supplement your brain. That there are certain supplements, especially saffron, that are associated with happiness. In fact, there's folklore in Persia that if you're too happy, you must have had saffron. And I make something called Happy Saffron, zinc, and curcumin. And there's 24 randomized controlled trials showing it's equally effective to antidepressants. 24.
What?
And
okay, hold on, stop. So there are 24 peer-reviewed studies that say that saffron is equally as effective for depression as prescription antidepressants?
Yes.
Chris, did you hear that? My husband, Chris, as you know, because you've scanned his brain and we still have to get together with you. That's incredible. All right. You're just like dropping knowledge and facts here, Dr. Amen. All right. So you gotta also nurture, feed, and take care of your brain from a supplement standpoint. You've already mentioned fish oil, vitamin D, multivitamin, saffron. Got it. And by the way, not only is this information in your book, You Happier, but if you go to any of the information on your websites, it is just unbelievable amounts of free information, everybody out there to help you as well. So what is secret number 4, Dr. Amen?
Love food that loves you back.
How do you know
you're in a relationship with food? That too many people go, oh, but I'd rather get Alzheimer's disease than give up sugar. Or they love pizza. But those things abuse you ultimately because they increase inflammation and damage you. I really want people thinking about what they put in their body. Your brain is 2% of your body's weight, but uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. And so if you're eating junk food, you're going to feel like junk. You're going to think like junk. So watching and monitoring what you put in your mouth and the mouths of your children are absolutely critical. If I had, just one simple strategy to end mental illness, it would be to radically change the American diet. Because if I can get my patients to eat in a brain healthy way, 30% of their symptoms go away.
That's incredible. Now, what
So
about for those
food
of
is
us that eat
essential.
really well? We still have, we're still unhappy, Dr. Raymond. What's number 5?
Well, so it's only one of 7. 5 is master your mind and gain psychological distance from the noise in your head. And, I teach people kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. You don't have to believe every stupid thing you think. And what's new for this book is give your mind a name. So there's this principle of gaining psychological distance.
Yeah.
I adopted my 2 nieces because their parents couldn't stop being bad parents. And, my niece, who's 17, named her mother's name, because it was like sort of every bad thing she got from her mother. And she's like, I totally can tell her to shut up. I totally could like walk away and don't have to listen to that. But we're in a society of undisciplined thinkers. And,
And
if you just
speakers.
watch the news, people, yelling at each other, we need to do a better job of managing our mind, disciplining our mind to help us, sort of like a good coach.
Yep.
What a good coach notices what you do right and applauds you, encourages you, and they notice what you do wrong and they teach you. And that's what a good coach is. And so becoming a good parent or good coach to yourself is just critical.
So can I stop here for a minute? Because we get a ton of questions from our audience about this. And is there a simple way to explain to everybody, whether it's an example in child brain development, why is it that the human brain adopts the voice of the adults around you? Because I think there is this big epiphany for a lot of people when they either start reading your work, Dr. Amen, and they're using the ants tool in order to smash the negative thinking and have some objectivity, or you start to label your mind. Our son, for example, calls his brain Oliver whenever anxious thoughts come up, to create objectivity and distance from thoughts. But can you explain to people the fact that the thinking patterns that you are listening to are likely not even from you? They're from somebody in childhood. How does that happen?
Well, thoughts come from all sorts of places.
Okay.
And one of the things I talk about in the book, they're actually written into your genetic code.
Oh.
That we know what happened to your parents, to your grandparents, to your great-grandparents, changes your genes to make you more vulnerable. I did a podcast with Mark Wallen. I just love his book, It Didn't Start With You. And that children of the Holocaust, for example, or children who had parents who developed PTSD in Iraq or Afghanistan are 30% more likely to develop PTSD themselves. So negativity and also positivity can be written in our genetic code. So thoughts come from our ancestors. They obviously come from our parents, from our siblings, from our friends, from the music we listen to, from the news we hear. And just because you have a thought, and this is like the big idea nobody taught us in school. I was 28 before I learned this. Just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not it's helpful, or whether or not you should attach to it. Because it's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer. It's the thoughts you attach to that make you suffer. And finding a way to evaluate them, because, I teach this stuff and I still get these crazy thoughts that come in my head. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Please don't say that out loud.
I can give you an example. Let me give you an example so that everybody can track with us. So we are in the middle of building this dream house in Vermont. And the closer that we get to moving in, the crazier my thoughts get, the more negative they get. And the thought that I have is, oh my gosh, if we move out of the house that we raised our kids in, and we move and spend more time 3 hours away in Vermont, we'll never see our kids again. I'll be alone. I'll be alone. And so that's the thought. It pops up every time I wake up in Vermont and I, can see 100 miles. And then I immediately like, oh my God, I'm going to be alone on this mountain. And that's not the piece, you're right, that makes me suffer. It's the fact that somewhere I then go, holy shit, we shouldn't have done this. We moved here too soon. I'm right. I never see my parents. I moved out of that house. And that's where the suffering comes. It's the reaction to it. Is that what you're saying?
It's the undisciplined thinking. And if you have ADD, you use negative thinking as a stimulant.
Wait, what?
If you have ADD, if you have sleepy frontal lobes,
yeah.
And, you and I did scan my brain together. And so I got to look at your brain. But I learned this a long time ago. People who wake up and do that, they just gave themselves 5 milligrams of Ritalin. Negativity stimulates their brain. They don't know they do it. It's completely unconscious or Pavlovian, right? Remember Pavlov, and he'd ring a bell and feed the dogs. And whenever he'd ring a bell, the dogs would salivate. Well, they had no idea that they were doing that. But my ADD.
My gosh. Yeah, you just blew my mind. It never even, like, I've always thought about the negative thinking as just like a default, a habit. It runs on autopilot. I never thought about the fact that there's a benefit that I'm getting, which is
Right.
this jolt, because it does catch my attention. It does wake me up. I'm turning this into my own personal therapy session. This is amazing. The world's leading expert on the brain. All right. So let's move on to number 6, everybody.
Notice what you like about other people more than what you don't. If you're going to be happy, you need to give happiness away. And ultimately, we shape the behavior of other people by what we pay attention to. And so, for example, a couple who has 5 times more positive comments than negative ones, significantly more likely to stay married. A business team with 5 times more positive comments than negative ones is significantly more likely to make money. I collect penguins. Actually, I have 2 of them behind me. And because how do you shape a penguin's behavior? I went to Sea Life Park in Hawaii. They had this great penguin show. This penguin's name was Fat Freddy, and he could do amazing things. And I went up to the trainer afterwards, and I'm like, how'd you get this bird? Because I was having trouble with my 7-year-old son at the time. How'd you get this bird to do all these really cool things? And she said, unlike parents, whenever Freddie does anything like what I want him to do, I notice him. I give him a hug, and I give him a fish. And the light just went on in my head that I was sort of like my dad, that when my son did the right things, in my mind, I didn't pay any attention to him because I just thought he should. And when he didn't do the right things, I gave him a lot of attention. So I was shaping him actually to be troubled when, and this works so well with Tana, with my wife, that I'm very purposeful in how I respond to her, because I love her and I want this to like last forever. And so I really focus on what I like rather than what I don't like. Now, if there are things I don't like, I'll talk about them, but that's not where the energy goes.
Wow. Okay. I'm like sitting, my mind is now spinning, not with negative thoughts, with really positive and kind of not even optimistic. Like I feel just listening to a lot of this, because it is very simple to put your attention on the things going right and what you like about people. And it is simple to try to figure out what kind of brain you have and understand that that's going to shape what's going to make you happy. What is secret number 7?
Live each day based on clearly defined values, purpose, and goals, and 4 big circles. And what I find, I've been a psychiatrist 40 years. And when I ask people what their goals are, they don't know. Like all great businesses have business plans. Like, what are we going to do this quarter? What are we going to do this year? What are we going to do the next 3 to 5 years? But most of my patients don't. And so we actually spend time, let's talk about values. And what values do you want to live your life on? What's your purpose? in life? Why are you here? Why do you wake up? Is this random chance, or are we going to do more than that? And then clearly define, what do I want in my relationships, my work, my money, my physical, emotional, spiritual health. And that just goes to the question. I know we're going to talk about questions, but does it fit? But if you don't tell your brain what you want, and not just work and not just money, what do you want in your relationships? What do you want for your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, which most psychiatrists won't touch, but I sort of want to know why you think you're on the planet, and what is your deepest sense of meaning and purpose, because purposeful people are happier. And so when you take all of this together, from brain type to brain health to supplements to food to managing your mind and relationships, you get 30% happier.
Well, there's no doubt. What you also showed me was about 70% of things that I could be doing. So I want to stop for a second and talk a little bit about values and purpose, because you and I both have a large number of people that come to us for advice. And my experience with the millions of people that follow us is the same that you're experiencing in your clinical practice and in your social media following, which is the majority of people do not know what their values are, do not know what their goals are not sure what their purpose is. And so let's start with values first. Is there a tool or a simple resource or something that you would point people to help them sort out what they value?
Yes. In fact, in the book, there's a tool to do just that. And we look at it in 4 circles. So what are your biological values? What do you value about your body? What are your psychological values? What do you value about your mind? What are your social values and your spiritual values? And there's, I think, 36 different values. And so I want you to think about the people in your life you admire the most, and then see which of those values fit that you can adopt. One of my favorite is, it's public knowledge that I've been Miley Cyrus's doctor for a long time, and she has struggled with anxiety. She actually talks about it, but her value is showing up. Her value is following through. So even if she gets anxious and feels like not going on, she always goes on. And some people may have seen how hard this last week was for her. Her plane got hit by lightning, and then one of her friends, the drummer for Foo Fighters, died from a drug overdose, and it was disaster for her. But yet she showed up because that's one of her values.
Yeah, awesome. Because I think that kind of trying to figure that out for yourself, it's not something that goes like that. You got to do a little digging. And so I'm thrilled that You Happier has some resources for people to help you start to really think about it, because it's important. And what about purpose? How do you help people start to think about what their purpose is?
So I have a wonderful exercise in the book, and it's based on like 5 simple questions, like who are you? What's your name? So, Daniel, what do you love to do? I love looking at brains. I love changing people's lives. I love that. Who do you do it for? I do it for myself, right? I want to have a better brain. And I do it for my family, and I do it for our patients and our community. And what do these people want or need from you? And well, they want to suffer less. And ultimately, my purpose is to help people suffer less. And in the process, it helps me feel connected, feel validated, and I do the right thing, because if you're not authentic, you suck as a messenger. So
I love that.
I have people go through this.
Those are super simple. Who are you? So what's your name? What do you love to do? Who do you do it for? Why do these folks come to you? And what was the final question?
What do those people want or need from you? So that's 4.
What are those?
And 5 is, how do they change as a result of what you do. Like Laura Cleary and I, she's a comedian. We did this on Facebook. And ultimately, her purpose in life was to give people a little dose of happiness every day. And I mean, it's like so simple, but you feel so purposeful. And purposeful people are happier.
And even if you're not happy in your life, you still know what you love to do. You can look back to times in your life where maybe you felt happier or more fulfilled or more connected or more energized, and you can remember the things that you love to do, correct? And is that how somebody who's not happy right now is reminded that the answers are there?
Well, and often they're focused on themselves rather than focused outward on how they can be helpful. Because when we get too wrapped up in ourselves, we become more vulnerable to depression.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I want to talk about the fact that in your new book, you've got 7 questions that you recommend that people ask themselves. Let's go through those 7 questions. And when you ask these questions, what do these questions do for you?
Well, you know, I've been working on helping people change for a long time, and I realize the more effective I am, the simpler I get. If I can make it really simple. And I worked with BJ Fogg. Do you know BJ?
Hold on one second. I need to hug my son because I'm leaving today for 2 weeks and I'm not going to see him.
That'll make you happy.
So happy. Oh my God, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have an awesome scrimmage. Say hi to Dr. Amen and everybody on the internet.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
I'll talk to you later.
I will call me.
Okay. Bye, dude.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. So the 7 questions you were talking about BJ Fogg. And
you know BJ Fogg?
I don't know BJ Fogg personally, but I'm aware of the work and the research. Yes.
Oh, you would love him because so much of what you teach is a tiny habit. It's super simple, and that's why it's so effective. And so I worked with him for 6 months to create tiny habits for brain health. And ultimately, it's these 7 questions. Number 1, am I doing something today that makes me uniquely happy based on my brain type? 2, is this good for my brain or bad for it? That's the mother tiny habit. You want to be happy, you got to get a healthier brain.
So you asked the second one kind of throughout the day, is this good for my brain? Turning on this, flipping through social media for the next 45 minutes. Is this actually good for my brain? Obviously not. Put the phone down. Okay.
Right. Or what you're going to go drink, or what you're going to eat, or what you're going to smoke, or, you know, the interaction you're going to have with your spouse. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? You just have to know the list. 3, am I supplementing my unique brain every day? Because based on your brain type, there are different supplements for the persistent person versus the cautious person. 4, do I choose food I love that loves me back? 5, is it true? Right? Whatever thought pops up in your head, is it true? So really become good at just questioning the nonsense, the noise that goes through your head. And one of my favorite questions, this is a sub question of 5. What went well today? I put myself to bed every night with, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well today? And I start at the beginning of the day, and I go, usually I'm asleep by lunchtime, but I love that exercise because it's like a treasure hunt every day. That, because, you know, you and I are both busy, and so great things happen, and we often gloss over them, where I'm like, oh my God, that was so cool. Like, my daughter is going to move closer to me, which makes me happy.
Now I'm triggered because I'm in Vermont here, sitting here thinking I'm never going to see my family again. So
which is a lie. Which is a lie. So you and I can talk about that. You'll see them anytime you want to see them, right? And children tend to follow, in my experience. But she actually found the bear I bought her the day she was born.
Oh,
And the music box still worked. And she sent me the picture and it made me teary. But then, I'm busy. I didn't think about it again. But boy, did I think about it putting myself to sleep, because it sets up your dreams to be more positive.
wow.
And then 6 is, am I reinforcing behaviors I like in others today or behaviors I dislike by what I pay attention to? And 7 is, does it fit? Does my behavior fit the values, purpose, and goals I have for my life? Because you have to tell your brain what you want, or it'll give you what society wants, which
It's so
is
true.
consuming junk food and watching, trash on social media.
Well, what I love about all these questions is that kind of the first one that was, am I doing something for myself that makes me uniquely happy? And the one about what went well today are things that begin and end your day. And the rest of them help you re-anchor to the power inside you to align what you're doing throughout the day so that you are happier, more supported, and more aligned with your values. So these are tools you can use all day long, these questions, and keep coming back to them to help you stay present, correct?
Correct.
I mean,
and to help you moving toward joy. And I actually start the book with the idea that happiness is not frivolous, that it's a moral obligation because of how you impact other people. If you've ever been raised by an unhappy parent or married to an unhappy spouse, I guarantee you those people will say, yes, happiness is an ethical issue. And so people think of it as fluff, and this isn't fluff. I think Buddha said, happiness is the way, it's the purpose in life. And hedonism is actually the enemy of happiness, because hedonism wears out your pleasure centers in your brain. And, I've been blessed to see some really amazing stars. And you just saw how fame trashed their brain.
right.
I'm in Justin Bieber's docuseries Seasons, and he's just a perfect example of a talented kid who fame nearly cost him his life. It's not hedonism we're after. And one of my favorite techniques, I think you'll like, is looking for the micro moments of happiness. What's the smallest thing that happened today that made the biggest difference for you? And I love
it, honestly, the hug with my son. Because I'm going on.
And those things happen a lot, but people don't pay attention to them. And so you hug them an extra second longer, and you're getting dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin. I talk about the chemicals of happiness as well.
The final thing that I wanted to say about this is it's a very simple exercise that you can do with somebody. And this helps somebody who is either struggling with happiness and doesn't know how to get started, or is struggling with confidence and is not able to take action, or who is resisting the changes that you are doing and you would love to see them do. We did this with our daughter, who is now 23. And last summer, when she graduated from college, really unhappy. 2 years of college had been imploded, and she was extremely depressed and basically just drank her way through it and graduated and was not happy. Big life change. Nothing was going according to plan. She had planned this huge trip to go to Cambodia and do a big service trip for 4 months. That wasn't going to happen. Just lost. And so Chris and I sat with her for a couple hours, and then I said, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I'm 22. I'm stuck. I'm miserable. I don't even know how to start. And I said, I actually think you do. I think you're just scared. Take out a blank piece of paper. Draw a line down the center. On the left-hand side, I want you to write happy me. Now close your eyes and think about a time that you remember being happy or more confident or alive. It could be any word you want, right? And you might have to go back to childhood. Our daughter closed her eyes and she said it was senior year in high school. And I said, okay, so write down all of the things that you were doing in a week of your life, senior year in high school. Just describe your life for me. Oh, I got up and do it in detail, everybody. I got up at 7 a.m. or 6:30. I was leaving the house by 7. I was with my friends all day. I was looking forward to going to college. I was playing varsity lacrosse. I was exercising 6 days a week. I was only partying with friends twice a week. I, was in a healthy dating relationship. I ate 4 dinners a night at home. Like just do. Great. Write down what your life looks like now. I sleep till 1. I drink every day. I feel like I don't see my friends because everybody's scattered now that we graduate. I don't have anything to look forward to. My trip to Cambodia is canceled. I'm not exercising. Okay. Compare the two. Your own life experience offers the map. And we want to overcomplicate these big words like happiness. I know I did for decades, or confidence. It's actually found in the little things. If you do this simple exercise of drawing a line down a piece of paper and you write down what life looked like in great detail, when did you wake up? When did you go to bed? How often were you with friends, family? What were you doing for work, exercise? What were you eating? If you then compare that to what life looks like now, you now know what to do. And the fact is, your whole life is the little things. It's when you wake up, it's the first thing you look at, it's what you do with your body, it's how you greet your spouse, it's how you talk to yourself, it's what you say to yourself when you look in the mirror, it's the mood that you walk into work with intentionally, it's how you greet your animals or your roommate when you end the day, it's the tone of voice that you use. That's your whole life. And if you were to just take the time and intentionally write down a few simple things that you do when you're happy in life, and you were to focus for the next 7 days on just adding one of those in a day, you would be very surprised how getting some of the little things right actually starts to turn your life in a completely different direction.
So powerful. Mel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on the show. The Mel Robbins podcast is out right now. You can go and listen, subscribe, share. Please, please, please go and do that. Mel, I love sitting down with you. Today was that perfect balance, as I was talking about before, of playing tennis, going back and forth, and at the same time, just getting some really practical, insightful advice from you on step-by-step strategic, systematic breakdown of how to do things. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a dear friend to me and Radhi. I hope me, you, Chris, all of us get to spend lots more time together, genuinely, or even if it's not lots more time, but it's deep time together. That would make me very happy. And I wish you all the best on defeating the campaigns of misery for yourself and everyone else in the world through your show, through your books on Audible, through your book in the 5-second rule, and also for helping me start working on my campaigns of misery as well. So thank you so much, Mel. I deeply appreciate you. Very grateful to you.
Being in an unhealthy marriage. If you stand in front of the mirror and you say to yourself, I'm going to love myself no matter what. Okay. Or I'm going to make this marriage work, or something that is really out there, this statement that's like, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to do what it takes to save this marriage. Okay. Do you see how that is a statement that is really kind of way up there, right? If you're in an unhealthy marriage, standing in front of a mirror and saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work. Or standing in front of a mirror and saying, I got to just hold on because I don't want to hurt the kids. That is an affirmation or a mantra that you will then contradict all day long with your actions. Because if you're in an unhealthy relationship, you are tolerating behavior that's not acceptable. You're probably
not doing the work in therapy, or if you are in therapy, you're going to the sessions but not applying it in real time. You are also probably not telling the truth about what you need and then holding somebody to that in time and space. And so what I would want you to say instead is something that you can believe, which is, I deserve to be in a healthy relationship. I deserve to be in a healthy relationship. When you say I deserve to be in something, you're not saying you know how to make it happen. You're not saying that it's going to happen overnight. You are setting a standard that even though your mind sees you having tolerated emotional or whatever kind of abuse or unhealthy dynamics in your relationship, when you say, I deserve to be in a healthy relationship, that is a believable mantra or affirmation. And you can say that to yourself all day long. And your actions, whatever they are, or your thoughts throughout the day, are not going to contradict that statement. Isn't that cool? Let's go on with another one. I need help with healthy boundaries, okay? I have unhealthy boundaries. I don't know how to say no. I feel guilty when I take time for myself. When you say, I'm going to be strong today, I'm saying no today, like when you say that as a mantra or an affirmation, if you have a moment of weakness, if you don't find the strength to say no, you are then going to have your actions contradict what you said in the morning, which erodes your confidence, it erodes your connection to self, it erodes your motivation to keep going. So you want to create a healthy boundary. You want to create a mantra, rather, that is something that you can believe. You ready? Here's some new mantras. And I've got a whole list of them that you can try out on page 95 called Meaningful Mantras. Let's see if any of these, give me a heart or write in the comments if you struggle with boundaries and you want to be a stronger person. How about this? I deserve to feel good today. I am an awesome person at my core. I'm going to try to have my own back today. Wow, what broke my heart in the past is going to open my eyes in the future. Now notice, when you say something like that, what broke my heart in the past has opened my eyes in the future. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to hold boundaries. It means that you're anchoring down in awareness. Today is going to be a good day. Notice I didn't say great. Notice I didn't say the best. Today is going to be a good day because you can find one good thing in any day, so it's more believable. I'm going to figure this out. Oh, I love that one. Don't you love that one as a mantra? I'm going to figure this out. Doesn't mean I'm going to figure it out today. But even if you're struggling with unhealthy boundaries, or you're in an unhealthy relationship, or you're struggling with procrastination, and today you procrastinate, or today you don't say no, and you say, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. You are bolstering the fact that every day you are learning something. What's meant for me is trying to find me. What's meant for me, this relationship, even though it's testing me, it's trying to teach me something. This scares me, but I'm going to try anyway. This scares me, but I'm going to try anyway. You know, I'm not giving myself enough credit. I'm not giving myself enough credit. That's a pretty good one, right? Because even if you don't follow through with the actions, it's true. You aren't giving yourself enough credit. And so what am I trying to teach you? Most mantras are bullshit because you're picking something you don't believe. So number one, you must pick something that even if you're not following through on the actions, you can get behind and believe. I deserve to be happy. Those of you that are writing in, I see in the comments a bunch of you saying, but what if I don't feel like I deserve it? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I want you to admit to me and to yourself right now that deep down, beneath all the pain, beneath all the heartache, beneath all the things that aren't working in your life, You do long to be happy. You miss it. You can only miss something that you know. And you know that deep down, you deserve that thing that you long for. When you say that you're unworthy or you don't believe that you deserve it, what that tells me is you don't think you can do the work to make it happen. Feeling insecure about your ability to make something happen is different than a belief that you don't deserve that thing you long for. And I want you to separate those two. For those of you that feel like you don't deserve success or you don't deserve happiness, write in the comments right now, I deserve to feel happy. I'm just not quite sure what to do to make it happen. Just write that statement. I deserve to feel happy. I'm just not quite sure today what to do to make that happen. Do you see how that is something you can get behind, right? That you deserve it, you're just not sure how to make it happen. And it's important for you to locate that inside you. Because when you can start to look in the mirror and say, I deserve to be happy. I'm tired of being sad. I deserve to be happy. I just don't know what to do today to make that happen. Once we can get you to start to say, I deserve to, I'm just not quite sure how to do it. Now, what's great about that is if you start repeating that throughout the day, you notice that halfway through the day, you have something crappy happen at work. Stop for a second. I deserve to be happy. I'm just not sure what to do today to make that happen. But I'm noticing that I don't really feel good at this job. That's amazing. Because you're starting to have this wake up moment. You're starting to have a wake up, right? To what you want. And that's the first step for any kind of transformation. And so the whole takeaway here is, number one, most mantras are complete bullshit because you're picking a mantra you do not believe. And then all day long, your actions and your thoughts just contradict the mantra, which means number three, your self-confidence and your desire to do the work to create that change just implodes and you lose all motivation and willpower. How you fix this is, number one, you pick what I call a believable. I should have called it kind of a lame mantra. That's not that inspiring. You pick something that's more believable because it's true. You do deserve to be happy. You know what else is true? Over time, you can figure anything out. You know what else is true? If you make progress every single day, you'll slowly start to turn your life in a little direction. You know what else is true? You are capable of doing the work over time to change your life. That is true. All those things are true. And what's going to happen if you stand in front of that mirror and you continue to say, everybody, I deserve to be happy. I'm just not quite sure how to make that happen today. What's going to start to happen is you're going to notice, because you're claiming the fact that you deserve it, you're going to start to notice that that line, I don't know what to do today, is going to start to change into, but I can figure it out. But I'm starting to figure it out. And that'll then change to, I deserve to be happy. And I see myself every day doing something small that makes me happy. Because you want to know the simple secret to feeling happier in your life. This is going to be crazy for you to hear, but it's true. The simple secret to feeling happier, it's about systems, everybody. It's not about your ability to be happy. It's about the systems that you create in your life and the habits that you have that create the feeling of happiness. So happy people do something that unhappy people don't. Happy people prioritize and plan and do things that make them happy. And it can be small things. Literally. We're going to dig into this in a much deeper level. But if you think about a time in your life when you were happier, write down all the things that you were doing that actually brought joy or happiness into your life. Now write down all the things that you do today. Compare the list. Your own wisdom is giving you the map. That's how you figure these things out. You also figure them out by watching live streams like this, reading books like The High Five Habit and The 5 Second Rule, by listening to podcasts, You have within you the ability to figure anything out. That's one of the best mantras on the planet, by the way, is that over time, and with a little bit of effort, I can figure this out. I know I can. And that is going to kind of push you forward.
Give us, I guess, maybe walk us through a little bit about I want you to touch on the high five habit. I want you to talk about the people that, yes, they have physical clutter, or yes, they're struggling. They might be listening to the show, but it's really so much deeper. It's about how they feel.
Self-worth.
It's all about, it all comes back to the self-worth. So just give us some insight into that.
You know, one of the things that I think that we've all been trained to believe is that tough love is love. And if you're hard on yourself, if you are critical of yourself, if you are labeling yourself a failure or unworthy or not good enough, why on earth would you ever feel motivated to change? Like, just think about it from a common sense standpoint. If what's something that you used to love to do when you were little?
Ride bikes.
Okay, so ride bikes. So imagine it's the 8-year-old Lori. Tell me about the bike that you had when you were 8 years old.
It was a yellow bike with a banana seat. And this is the 70s, because and it had a little flower basket on the front. And I used to just ride it around my old neighborhood with my friends. And, we would just, like, again, this was the 70s. So we were free ranging all around and would just ride and have fun and stop and play. And that was, it wasn't a competitive, organized thing. It was just me and my friends outside playing, back in the day.
Yeah. Riding around on your banana seat bike, having a ball, present in the moment.
Yep.
Loving life, happy, enjoying yourself, enjoying what you're doing. I'm sure when you woke up, one of the things that you thought about that you'd love to do today is hop on your bike and go find your friends, right?
Sure.
So now imagine that you're riding down the street and there's a group of kids that come up and ride alongside you and start saying, "You're terrible at this. Your bike is ugly. You're too big for that bike. What the hell are you out here doing this anyway? Hey, I heard that you really said this stupid thing at school. You don't deserve to be out here playing. Shouldn't you be working on speaking better?" What happens to you as somebody else is saying that kind of crap to you?
Well, you start to believe it, because it's always easier to believe the worst than something good. And if somebody's pointing that out, at least that's, for me, is I would start to believe, is that actually true?
Yeah. So the 8-year-old you, in literally 10 seconds flat of being criticized and beaten down and picked apart, you go from feeling happy to feeling sad. You go from being excited and curious and present to withdrawing and to feeling heavy emotionally and self-conscious. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, the first thing on your mind is not the enthusiasm and the motivation and the inspiration to jump on this bike and go do something that you know you like to do. It's a little bit of fear. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because if you are somebody that struggles with self-criticism, you are doing to yourself exactly what those other kids did in my story to you, Lori, as an 8-year-old on your bike. And every single human being, based on our research, and I'm just going to say every single human being, because I have yet to meet one person who says, actually, that's not true about me, Mel. Every single person is speaking to themselves the way that those other kids who bullied you and who criticized you and who tanked your spirit, everybody speaks to themselves that way. And it's become so much the default, you don't even realize it. And if you're sitting there listening to me and you're like, I'm not sure, do I beat myself? I think I don't know if I beat myself up. You definitely beat yourself up, and I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
Because every single morning when you're brushing your teeth, you have this moment where you're standing before a mirror. And based on our research, and look, there's millions of people that follow us. Based on our research and our surveys and what we've now heard from 145,000 people in 91 countries, 50% of men and women cannot or will not look at themselves in the mirror. That is a habit of self-rejection and self-hatred. And it begins your day. If you cannot or will not look yourself in the mirror, and if you're somebody who won't and can't open your bills, you're probably somebody who cannot or will not look at yourself in the mirror. And the reason why you cannot or will not look at yourself in the mirror is because you are sad, ashamed, disgusted, regretful, whatever, of where you are or the decisions that you've made in your life. And so you begin your day with a deliberate act of self-criticism and self-hatred by refusing to even acknowledge your own presence. And that's how your day begins every day. And it is not just something that you casually do. It is a locked in habit that is as much a part of your morning as brushing your teeth. This is the core problem that every human being is facing. And if you can look in the mirror, you're like the 91% of us who focus on the things we can't stand, that we need to fix. As you start to apply your makeup, you're not doing it as a creative act, as an additive. You're hiding things, you're fixing things, you're making yourself look better. And dudes do this too. This is not unique to women. This is all human beings. And so again, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you focus on what you don't like, that is a habit of criticizing, rejecting, and hating on yourself. And so I didn't even realize the extent to which I was doing this. I did not realize that the core way that I spoke to myself was one that was critical. And I'm talking about a time in my life, Lori, where I'm 52. I am living the dream. I have reinvented myself over the course of a decade. I have clawed my way out of a financial fucking crater. I am proud of myself for how hard I've worked. Not only hard I've worked to make money, to build a business, to help other people out, but I'm proud of myself because of how much work I've done in therapy and on myself to be a better version of myself. And here I am in April of 2020, and I'm going through a challenging moment. Doesn't even matter what's going on as the backdrop, because everybody can relate to the feeling of waking up in the morning and feeling overwhelmed by your life. That's what I felt in April of 2020. And I walk into the bathroom and yep, I'm the lady that has written the 5-second rule. I've sold millions of books. I've gotten myself not only out of debt, but I've put away tons of money. I am employing a ton of people. I have a lot of respect from people that follow my work. I think I respect myself. Not true. Not true. And it's not true because I was not treating myself with respect. So I'm brushing my teeth this morning and I catch my reflection in the mirror. And my first reaction literally is, ugh, you look like hell. And I focus on the lines on my neck and the dark circles under my eye and the gray hair that's coming in and one boob's hanging lower than the other. And I just start picking myself apart. I start doing what the kids in the story that I told you, the kids that ride up alongside you as you're 8 years old and they start picking apart the way you're riding that bike. I start doing that to myself. And as you start picking apart your appearance, you will feel your mood drop. You will feel your motivation evaporate. You will feel the heaviness kick in. And every single one of us starts our day like this. And so, for whatever reason, I think it was divine intervention because the story's so stupid. Like, I mean, I didn't intentionally high five myself that more. Like, I literally, the woman I saw in the mirror looked so sad and so overwhelmed. She looked like she needed a high five. And so I just raised my hand and I high fived her. And that was the beginning of this. And, it wasn't like the first high five. I'm like, wow, I'm going to write a book about this. It wasn't like that. But what happened is I noticed I immediately felt a little energy shift. And I laughed, of course, when I did it because it's so corny. But it was the next morning that the profound nature of this really started to kick in. I probably spotted it because I have spent my life in the last 5 years finding and sharing simple tools that make profound changes in your life. And so I pay attention to when I feel different. And, that second morning I wake up and I feel different. And the first thing I noticed is I'm actually looking forward to getting to the bathroom. I'm thinking about the high five. And as I'm walking to the bathroom, I realize that for the first time in my adult life, that feeling, I'm having this feeling for the first time. And let me explain to you what it is. That feeling when you're about to walk into a cafe and meet somebody that you really like?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. What like if you can
Sure.
conjure it
Yeah.
up from our COVID brains.
I'm just
like, what was
kidding.
that
Yes.
feeling like?
Yeah.
What
for
is it? What do you
sure.
feel?
Excitement, lighter in your step, kind of just enthusiasm.
Yeah. I felt that the second morning about the idea of seeing myself. Now, let me unpack how profound this was for me. I had always looked forward to potentially seeing an outfit or a haircut or something like that. But I don't ever recall as an adult looking forward to seeing the human being, Mel Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And so it strikes me as I round the corner that this is like a moment. And I walk into the bathroom and then I have the second realization. And the second realization I have is that, holy shit, there are 2 people in the bathroom every morning. There's you and there's the human being in the mirror. And she needs you. She's trying so hard. She's exhausted. She is so beaten down by your criticism. And she needs you to see her and to start cheering for her and to support her. She is trying hard to ride that little bike, and all you're doing is beating her down. And, as I started to realize that, it was this intense spiritual experience, this deep moment of presence that I think people have sometimes when they're meditating, or some of the psychedelic therapeutic modalities bring it out for people, moments in nature where you come around a corner and there's an extraordinary view, kind of these divine moments where you feel deeply reconnected to self. And standing there that second morning in the bathroom, looking at a woman in a mirror that I had been criticizing and ignoring, I raised my hand to her and gave her a high five. And it was truly like a moment of coming home. And I now have a high five in the mirror as part of my morning routine. I added it in April of 2020. I have not missed a morning. I do it right after I brush my teeth. I don't say a thing because all the programming is in your brain and we can unpack it and why it's all exciting. And even Dr. Caroline Leaf, the neuroscientist who discovered neuroplasticity 30 years ago, went bananas when she read The High Five Habit and started to unpack the science around this with me. But what's fascinating is that the change in me is revolutionary. You know, I have fundamentally rewired my brain doing this. Fundamentally. When I look in a mirror, I don't even see my face or my body anymore. I see a human being that I love, that's trying, and that I support. Just like you see your kids. You know, your kids do things that piss you off. They make mistakes. They, fuck up all the time. They're annoying. And you still love them. And you still view them through this lens of support and unconditional love.
But we don't
And
show that to ourselves. That's the
we
thing,
don't know how.
right?
We don't know how.
You say sort of the motivation actually has to come through, in a sense, changing your behavior first. It's behavior
Look,
activation
motivation's
therapy.
complete fucking garbage
Hmm.
because it's not there when you need it. Yeah, you're going to feel motivated if you listen to Dr. Hyman or Mel Robbins, but that's extrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
In terms of the intrinsic motivation that you need to motivate yourself, you're going to have to push yourself because you're not designed to like change. You're designed to stop yourself from changing. And that's
Yeah.
the problem.
I find that it's if you can actually master your mind and get out of your own way and deal with this crazy inner dialogue that most of us have, that you can get free. And what I kind of figured out at 63 years old is that the purpose of life is to get your soul free. Kind of like, Joni Mitchell sang in that Woodstock song, let's get your soul free. And it's not easy because most of us don't learn how to do that. Just as we don't learn how to take care of our bodies, we don't learn how to take care of our minds. So we know maybe how to do exercise, but how do we do inner size?
Inner size. Is that a word you made up?
Kind of.
I think Dr. Hyman just discovered a word for his next book, the Inner Size Program.
Yeah.
The ultimate wellness solution. I can already see this. You talk a lot about how to heal from the neck down. And I agree with you. I personally have come to believe, after 54 years of torturing myself unnecessarily, in many cases, that it does begin with the neck down. That if you follow a lot of the protocols that you talk about, whether it is toning the vagus nerve, or it's getting your diet right, or it is resetting your hormones, or it's cold exposure, or the habits that settle you and free your soul. But you also have to develop habits around your own mind.
Yeah.
And that's an area where, like you and like everybody listening, I have struggled profoundly. And there are a couple key insights that have really helped me change the default setting that is in my mind. And so the way that I would get into this is that self-love is the goal. You talked about the fact that you've come to realize that it's really a journey, your adult life, of setting your soul free. And I look at it like it is a journey of coming back home to yourself and learning how to love yourself for exactly who you are and exactly who you aren't. And you have a opinion medically that our bodies have this intelligent design, and that our bodies have this intelligent design that if you have the proper inputs, your body can heal itself. Your body is designed to grow. It is designed to help you. It is designed to be vibrant. And I believe the same is true about your experience mentally. And that if you stop and think about the fact that when you are born into this world, you come into this world needing, of course, other human beings in order to survive. I mean, we as a species, we cannot just pop out like a deer and get up on our hind legs and start running around and figuring things out. We need human connection.
Yeah.
But at our core, when you think about the intelligent design of a human being, we are curious, we're loving, we are seeking connection, we are self-expressed. A baby, you as a baby, you would laugh, you'd smile, you would crawl towards a mirror if you saw your own reflection. You would crawl towards things that were interesting to you. You were not editing yourself. You were not questioning what people around you would think about you kind of jiggling your booty or smashing your face into a plate of spaghetti. At your core, you are a loving, curious, confident human being.
Yeah.
That's who you are. And that's why we miss feeling that way, because you can only miss something that you know.
Yeah.
And so what happens to all of us, and this is no fault, this is just part of the human journey, is that we now know, and you talk about this on your show, that part of your core memories and your imprint mentally, in terms of your mental patterns, happen between 0 and 5 when your brain is in a theta state and you are largely nonverbal, and your little brain is absorbing everything at hyper speed. And what it absorbs are the speaking patterns and the emotional patterns and the emotional tone of the household that you grew up in.
Ooh, that's a scary thought.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And so by the time that you start to be able to attach words to your reality, you have adults correcting you, and you also have a biological demand, which is, I need food. I need to be part of this family in order to survive. I need love. And so you start to figure out how to survive or thrive in the environment you grew up in.
Yeah.
And so these core coping skills start to develop. You don't even realize it's happening. These opinions that you have about yourself that are largely coming from other people.
Yeah.
So most of us did not receive the love that we needed in the way that we could really process it as love, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a function of abuse or trauma or any of this other stuff. There's this term that I love called parental mismatch.
Yeah.
Parental mismatch.
Yeah.
Your parents may have been absolutely awesome human beings, but when it comes to what you needed, there was a mismatch. And what happens in human design is that when you as a child don't get what you need, or you get yelled at, or something bad happens to you, which happens to everybody, we're not wired in a way to say, my parents are fucking screwed up. We're not wired that way.
You know what parents are?
What?
Parents are people who have kids.
Yes.
They have no training, no experience.
And they're just repeating
They're
the
trying to figure it out.
patterns that were repeated on them largely without even realizing it. And
Very
so
true.
if you get bullied at school, if you experience racism, if you experience some sort of abuse or neglect or emotional whatever in your home, you don't go, those people have a problem. You go, there must be something wrong with me. And that's where it begins, Dr. Hyman. And it happens to everybody, where you prioritize the need to fit in.
Or survive in any way in your family if it's screwed up, which most of our families are not perfect.
Yep. Or to keep the peace, or to not get hurt, or to please the people around you. You figure out how to adapt very quickly based on the environment that you're in. And for almost all of us, that means I got to put other people's expectations, other people's opinions about what's going on, everybody else's emotional reactions above what I need. Because remember who you are at your core. You are a loving, self-expressed, curious person who wants to connect with people and wants to share yourself. That's who you are at your core. And at some point during your childhood, it happens to all of us, we internalize a message that there's something wrong with who we are. And in order to fit in or survive or be accepted or get the love or the praise that we are seeking, we have to be somebody other than who we are. And that's where the mindset shit goes sideways. because you start to actively tell yourself, I don't fit in there. That person's pissed at me. I got to be like this. There must be something wrong with me if nobody's asking me out on a date. My mom's always criticizing the way that I look. Why do I look different than other people? Why am I the only Black kid in the class? Why am I like, my family immigrated here and there's nobody else in it? And you start to see all the places that you're not a part of. And all of these things compound, and it traps us in a narrative in our own minds where we beat the shit out of ourselves. We pick apart the things that are wrong. We're constantly, relentlessly just focused on what we're not doing.
Yeah.
And it's a very dark place that most people live in.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, and often people don't realize it. And, I thought I had my shit together.
When did you realize you didn't?
And I mean, I know over the years, I realized I have, needed work to do, because I understood that my family of origin, was problematic, that my stepfather was a rageaholic, that my father was sort of absent, abandoned us, that my mother was depressed. I mean, I had to navigate a very kind of unsafe environment and be a people pleaser and take care of broken people. And I mean, all these habits and patterns that, be around people who were failures and wanted to not be a failure. So I had all these things that were driving me unconsciously or consciously. But, when I really kind of woke up was when I realized that I struggled with love. I'd been married 3 times, divorced 3 times. And like, wait a minute, what is going on in there? In many areas of my life, I have success and things are great. And I have a great community and great friends and so much is great. But in this one area, I was like, why is this such a problem? And I really, until I took the time to investigate, I call it soul archaeology, to investigate what was going on and to unpack my inner dialogue and to write it down. I literally wrote down all the stupid shit my head was saying every minute.
What were you saying to yourself?
Oh my God, I'm embarrassed.
That's why I want you to say it. What is the stuff you were saying?
Wait, is this me interviewing you? Yeah. So basically I had this belief that, I think that was underlying it, that I wasn't kind of worthy, that, I didn't really deserve to have love. And I had this sort of needy inner dialogue.
Yeah.
That was feeling a lack and scarcity, that I felt this emptiness and this hole that I was trying to fill, and that I wasn't ever going to be able to fill it. And so I was constantly doing that. And I realized it was because, and again, these the sort of sins of our fathers are visited upon their children, right? It's like my mother was the child of deaf parents, and she had to take care of them from a very early age, and she took care of them, and they were beautiful people and very loving. But, she thought that love was taking care of somebody broken. And then my mom was depressed, and she used me as her therapist as a little kid. And then I thought love was taking care of broken people, or, people pleasing and doing all these things that really weren't serving me.
Right.
And once I sort of began to realize that, I began to call in my, higher self, whatever that you want to call it is.
Yeah.
But there's some part of your, soul being that knows what the truth is.
Well, I think it's the part of you when you're born.
Yeah.
It's actually who you are.
But most of that is not what's running our inner dialogue.
Correct.
And so that was not running my inner dialogue. So I began to do this practice where I would write down all the stupid shit my head would say, and then I would write back to myself from my higher self.
Yes.
And it was really effective. I did this for months and months and months. And I was able to really unpack some of this sort of stuff. And once I kind of realized also what this wounding was as a kid and why I felt emptiness. And actually was in part because this movie called Coda that was about this young girl who was hearing and grew up in a deaf family, just like my mother. And that just broke me open. And I was literally on the floor sobbing for days. And I got to release a lot of it. And then it kind of reset my nervous system. It was almost like a real reset. But I've sort of struggled with some of that. And so going through that process, I realized each of us has to be on our own journey. And each of us has to sort of look at where are the areas where we don't love ourselves. And I thought, I love myself. I'm real good. I feel good about myself. I'm successful, blah, blah, blah. But the truth was there was a part that I really didn't. And I didn't really fully accept and love myself. And that's what was creating this kind of constant pattern of choosing the wrong people. A friend said I had a broken picker. It wasn't the problem of the people I was with. It was me.
You had a broken pattern
Yeah.
of belief in your head.
Yeah.
And that made you feel broken.
Yeah.
And the good news is when you can identify what the broken pattern of thinking or behavior is, you can replace it with something else. See, the good news is at any moment in your life, you can decide who you want to become. It's never too early or too late to decide that you want to become a different you. You want to go back to who you know you truly are, a loving, curious, confident, connected, self-expressed person.
Yeah.
And what I want to just add to your story is that that wasn't a lie you were telling yourself, because your experience was one where you did not get the love you needed as a child.
Yeah.
That happened.
That did.
That happened. And it was because of this mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody intentionally set out to damage you.
No, my parents are good people. They just were screwed up themselves.
Yes, but so I think one of the mistakes that we make when we start to do this work to reclaim our lives and to change our mindsets and to become a different version of ourselves is that we kind of shy away from telling the truth to ourselves. Like, that should happen. The reason why I believe that is because my lived experience was everybody else's needs came first. I did not get the love that I needed. And in order to even get the attention that I needed from the adults around me, I had to twist myself in knots. Like, I literally had to forget about myself. And that was real.
Yeah.
Like my husband, for example, you know, we've been married 26 years and have been in really awesome, intense therapy for the last 2 years. And one of the things that has come out of it is that Chris has a lot of trauma from his childhood.
Yeah.
Had an absent father. His mom was always working. He was a latchkey kid. He had no physical abuse.
Yeah.
But nobody was ever there.
Neglect is a form of abuse.
Yes. But but he is forever kind of, you know, like they were great. Like we were all, but the truth is, no, they weren't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
When you claim for real that you didn't get what you needed, and that created years, decades of an experience where that was your lived experience. But what you're talking about by writing that down, and writing it down is critical, because part of the issue is we try to change the default patterns of thinking that come from your lived experience.
Yeah.
So they may have been true in the past because of the way you got treated or what people said to you. That is your lived experience, just like trauma is your lived experience. When we don't really call that out for what it is, we unconsciously carry it forward.
Yeah.
And so when you start to write down, these are the crazy ass things that I think because this is how I fucking felt.
Yeah.
And based on my lived experience, this makes a lot of sense. But here's where consciousness, alignment, choice, the wake-up call, I call it, comes into play.
Yeah.
You get to choose if you want to keep thinking this shit moving forward. Now, when it comes to mindset, what is profoundly complicated about it, and what I got wrong for years, is that I thought that changing your mindset began with changing your thoughts. It does not. It does not. You change your mindset the same way you change the health of your body from the neck down, from the outside in. And let me give you what I'm talking about. So the act of writing things down, that is not doing the internal work of your thinking. That is getting that shit out of your head and in daylight and on paper and in the real world so you can look at it objectively. That is doing work outside of your mind. The second thing is everything that you talk about, Dr. Hyman, from especially the stuff related to nervous system regulation, cold exposure, warm baths at night, the 5 breaths that you talk about, learning how to tone your vagus nerves so that you flip off the fight or flight, which continues all of those thoughts from your past to spin on repeat. Your thinking has so much to do with your nervous system state that learning how to regulate your nervous system using all of the tools that Dr. Hyman or that I write about or all the amazing, like put that shit into place, because a calm nervous system facilitates calm thinking.
Yeah.
And the third thing is,
I just want to stop you there because that's such an important point. Is you can change your physiologic state with practices that don't involve your thinking
Yes.
that change your mind
Yes.
and change the way you feel and change your mood. And,
Yes.
and that is such a powerful insight that most people have no idea about. People feel stuck in the state that they're in and they don't know there's a pattern break.
Yes.
For example, yesterday I was, I podcast all day preparing for my book, and I had one that I didn't record, and I was like, I didn't hit the record button. Long story. And I was like, "Rrr," and I was just tired. I didn't, and my partner, fiance, she basically set the alarm stupid early and forgot to turn it off. And I didn't get enough sleep. So I was like feeling kind of a little bit fried. And so I could tell myself, my body, my mind was just doing bad stuff. So I said, I'm going to meditate. So I meditated for 20 minutes and I have a steam shower. I put that on. Went in the steam, hot as it could be, for 20 minutes. Went in an ice bath because it's winter, very cold in the Berkshires, for like 2-3 minutes. And I got out of that and I literally felt completely different. My mood, my energy, my focus, my brain. So we have these doorways into our mind
Yes.
and our mood that are not internal, they're external. So if you could summarize the things that are the most powerful to help us come back to self-love and self-acceptance, which really is the key to everything in life. It's the key to healthy relationships. It's the key to being successful in life. It's the key to taking care of your own body, of eating the right thing, of exercising, everything you can think you want to do or want to get in your life. It kind of starts there.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.